kind of like a window in a window, but I think it's said that they will fix it. They will kind of fix it when.
A window in a window.
Yeah, I see you, and then I see myself in the background.
And does it go on forever like that? Do you see me and then yourself and me and then yourself?
I
Does it keep
yeah
going?
yeah in this endless mirror.
Yeah. So hello everyone.
Hi everybody. That was 6 weeks since the
That's
last one.
That's right. That's right. Hope
Much has
everyone is
happened.
well. Yes, the holiday season. And yeah, that's right. So what do you want to talk about?
So you had two. You sent me two poems, two of Helen's poems,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally feel a little bit like I'm in the ancient love right now. The not I'm not really in the ancient love. I'm in the poem that is called the ancient love.
Yes.
Huge difference.
Yes. It I opened yeah. Since like the past 6 weeks, I've been kind of as I told you, just kind of reacting against Jesus, and a lot of resistance has come up, like huge resistance, and so when I opened the gifts of God these two times, these two poems kind of they shine their light on me, and so I said, okay, this is exactly what I need to read today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you wanna read? Should we start with the ancient love because
Yeah, that
that's
sounds good.
you want to read it?
Sure. And I might stop and comment in between.
Yeah. So that's page 44. By the way, page 44 in the Gifts of God, and the poem is called "The Ancient Love."
Ancient love. Love, you are silent. Not one shining word has reached my heart for an eternity of waiting and of tears. I have forgot your face that once was everything to me, but now is almost nothing. What you were, I do but half remember. What you are, I do not know at all. What you will be is unimagined. Sometimes I believe I knew you once, and then again, I think you were a dream that once I thought was real. Yeah, that part where it says, your face that once was everything to me, but now is almost nothing. When you're feeling the resistance toward this course, at least this last 6 weeks that I have, I really, it literally felt he was nowhere, and it's me who pushed him away. But it felt that I couldn't. There wasn't the hand to reach out to. That it was completely, that I was completely alone, and to look at that and to see that happening was really very helpful for me, because I realized I didn't judge myself. There was part of me that was not judging it while I was in it. And as painful as it was to have this resistance episode, that I call it, um, I really felt that there was something there, a presence, like I was holding on to his pinky finger instead of his hand. No. And so when it says, what you were, I do but half remember. I only half remember you. It really felt that for me. So this poem was, when I opened it up to this poem, I said, wow, this is exactly what I was feeling. And Helen must have felt it too, of course, because she had one heck of an ego when she was in her ego, you know. So I'll read the rest.
Yeah.
My eyes are closing, love. Without your word, I will but sleep, and sleeping will forget even the dream. Is silence what you gave in golden promise as the Son of God? Is this bleak, unresponsive shadowland the overcoming that you offered those who understood the Father through the Son? Is endless distance what must stand between my love and me? You promised that you will forever answer, yet, love, you are still. So, and that is seen from the ego's point of view for when we are identified as the ego. It is he that looks still. It is he that seems to have dropped our hand,
Right.
but it only seems that way. So, the, in this bleak and unresponsive shadowland, how about that?
Beautiful.
Yes. And I really, I could resonate with the Shadowland. It's as a title, because it's you're kind of fumbling around in the dark that you chose.
Right. Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I can identify with each line in different times of my process with the course. I think I've lived through all of them, and I think most course students must have had the same experience of living through, those lines. And I had this. I'm in this state right now, which is very similar, where I feel as if there's this line in the course that says, it's in chapter 11, section, the introduction to chapter 11, paragraph 4. It says, when you have at last looked at the ego's foundation without shrinking, you will also have looked upon ours. And for also, I don't know if it was the last 6 weeks or at least the last, couple of months, I felt stronger than before those two very clearly distinct states of mind. One is the one where I'm looking at the ego's foundation, which is reflected in that poem, and it is literally a bleak, unresponsive shadowland. There's nothing there. There's nothing in the world that says, hey, how about a vacation on the ocean? It's like, there's nothing there. It's literally bleak.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fear. I moved away from the word anxiety because I think it's just a little bit of weaker. So I'm just sitting with the fear. And so that's the one state. And then on the other side, and it can switch many times throughout the day, where I feel like I'm just want to cry and burst into tears of the love that is there. So for me, it feels like as if the course process is kind of like a little funnel. It gets narrower and narrower in a way, where one side is expressed where what Helen describes, love, you are silent. Jesus is nowhere to be found, right? It's we're on our own. It feels like we're on our own. And on the other side is that love that comes through, that presence that just comes through, but then the fear of that presence, we pendle in the other direction again. So it's very intense. And the third I want to say state would be that longing. The golden promise as the Son of God, in silence, what you is silence what you gave in golden promise as the Son of God. Is this longing, is endless distance what must stand between my love and me? When I ask myself that question a lot, when will I be able to say yes to Jesus? Fully accept his love that I know is there. So that's kind of my state of mind right now.
Yeah, I like the symbolism of a funnel that you brought up. That's really interesting. That things get more kind of intense, the closer we, or the more progress we make with the course. That there's kind of an intensity because I mean, that if we hadn't made the progress, then this intensity wouldn't be there.
Right.
It's almost like a reaction
Right.
to that. So, yeah, and then the terror and the fear that come up.
Right.
But yeah, speaking of getting emotional, what was I reading? Oh, from chapter 12, The Way to Remember God. I was reading the last sentence, the last paragraph. It's chapter 12, section 2, The Way to Remember God. And it's the last paragraph. And it's, that's just,
Oh, yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
I filled up with a well of emotions after reading that. And it was just very powerful for me. But just a synopsis I can read. We are therefore embarking on an organized, well-structured, and carefully planned program aimed at learning how to offer the Holy Spirit everything you do not want. He knows what to do with it. And just on and on. It just was, there was such a well of emotion for me reading that. And I don't know why, because I've read it many times before and didn't have that reaction. But yeah, he will not fail to help you, since help is his only purpose.
Right. Right.
And then he gets right to our fear. He says in the last sentence, do you not have greater reason for fearing the world as you perceive it than for looking at the cause of fear and letting it go forever? So there you go. That's why our resistance exists.
Right.
We're afraid of letting it go forever.
Right.
So
that is in those times when the resistance seems to be stronger. I think those are also the times potentially where the love can break through more. Because if we're in this even state where we're kind of okay, we're like just hopping along, doing our groceries, going through our day, working, having some goals and doing stuff, and we're kind of okay. It never happens to me when I'm in that state. It only happens when I can feel the resistance or the fear. And the stronger the fear gets, the closer the right-minded part is. And it just suddenly breaks through, and then I let it go again. But it's, I think it's we're potentially closer to that than when we're in that normal quote unquote state.
yeah. I think that that's the reaction to our getting close to it.
Right.
So that we know that love exists if we have a reaction to it, against it.
Right.
Somewhere he says that. I don't recall, but
There's a whole chapter, and I remember there's one tape set of Ken's where this one student said, "Ken, you remember that quote or that passage in the course where it's all logical. And Ken said, "Yeah, I know, it's page 274, whatever." He knew exactly what it was right away. And it is about, it is, I think it's in the chapter 12 or chapter 13. It's about the, if we make fear, if we conceive fear as the call for love, and the fear is the thing that denies the love, that means the fear is the one that proves that love exists.
Yes. Yes,
So the
exactly.
denial of love proves that love exists.
Yes. Otherwise, we would not have a reaction against it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There is there's a sentence I just got that in chapter 10, section 5, the denial of God, in paragraph 6, it says, "Your denial of him therefore means that you love him and that you know he loves you."
Wow. Wow. That's the reaction formation
Right. Yeah.
that Freud talked about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it wasn't there, we wouldn't have anything to react against. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's the interesting part of this course, is that we would never have noticed that if we didn't have the help of Freud
Right.
and learning, and of course Jesus later in the course, but learning about the unconscious mind, bringing what's unconscious conscious.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the denial, if we can think of denial as the river in Egypt, no, just kidding. But if we can think of denial as everything we do with the ego, which, anger, judgment, jealousy, hatred, condemnation, you name it, all the emotions of the world, as the Course says. And because that's kind of the tools of denial.
Yes.
We deny Jesus through being upset or being jealous or overzealous or whatever it is. So if we can translate that and use that sentence and say, your anger of him, or your anger therefore means that you love him. Your jealousy therefore means that you love him. Your upset therefore means that you love him and that you know he loves you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be all those things. It's really a very forgiving sentence.
Yes, it is. It proves that he exists because we're reacting against something.
Right.
There was something similar I read, because I'm starting the Journey Home, Ken's book,
Oh, yeah.
Obstacles to Peace. And there was something I read that was similar to what you just said. At this point, our journey home is underway, taking us through the various defenses that the ego has defined as salvation.
Mm.
It's
Right.
kind of along the lines of what you said, that
Mm-hmm.
they're not using denial, and they are defenses.
Right.
The insane distortions and the convoluted detours are gradually seen as they truly are, obstacles to our peace.
Right.
He's
Wow.
such a prolific writer, Ken.
It's true.
He knows how to
So
sum
did you
things
go?
up in one sentence, sums things up.
Did
Our
you go through
defenses are
the
seeking
workbook?
salvation. Yeah. Sorry?
Sorry. Did you go through the workbook with Ken already?
Journey through the workbook I did about 12 years ago, and now I'm redoing it and seeing even more. So there's even more stickers all over it.
Right.
So you can barely read it now. I didn't catch that before. Let me put a
Right.
highlight there. Yes, I'm going through it again, and it's just coming alive from
Right.
when I the difference between when I did it 12 years ago. So and yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of Ken's passing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't believe it's been a decade. It's just incredible.
I can't believe it either.
I can't. I caught that.
Good.
He would have liked that.
Yeah, I'm sure they were all
Yes.
constants.
He would have said, "Oh,
Ah,
oh, Stefan." He would have come back with a retort.
with something. He is
Yeah,
something. I'm sure.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, I just want to go back to the poem because when we talked about defenses, and when Helen says, "My eyes are closing, love," that's a defense, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, when she says, "Without your word, I will but sleep, and sleeping will forget even the dream."
Mhm.
That's a defense against his love. So that dark night is a defense against the light. It doesn't just come,
That's right. That's right.
you know.
It's that's really a good point, Stefan. It's really a good point. The Dark Knight is a defense because we can often blame it on something else. This, that, or the other thing that's happening in the world. Um, whether it's a situation or chemical imbalance or what have you,
Right.
it's like we blame it, but it really comes down to it when you generalize all these defenses and denials of truth. Yeah, that certainly that sentence does stand out with that.
Right.
And I will but sleep, and sleeping will forget even the dream.
Right.
So it's almost like a triple shield of oblivion.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically, I was thinking about that actually. So you're watching TV, and then, so you're in this world, which is a defense, right, against love, against the guilt, and then the guilt is the defense against love. And the world is not enough to um, to quiet that guilt that's bubbling up constantly, right? So we need a defense within the defense. So we watch TV, right?
Hmm.
So the TV would be to distract us from the world, which distracts us from the guilt, which is the denial of love, right?
Hmm.
But then I catch myself all the time. I TV isn't enough. I have to also be on my iPhone. So you're on the iPhone watching TV, which is should shield us from the harshness of the world, that shields us from the guilt, that shields us from the love. So it's a quadru. I mean, it's an endless defense after defense after defense. I mean, it doesn't just end. It's I'm sure there's more than now.
That's
Just
why he says we've made it so splintered and subdivided
right,
that we can't even recognize it once was one. That the
right.
splintered part I can. Oh man,
So,
just like you said, yeah, all the defenses and also our need for sleep when we get so tired. That's because of the defenses we have to hold up constantly,
right,
24/7.
right,
The denial of truth
right.
makes us exhausted.
I know.
Yeah, that's
God.
enough. Yeah, sleep also does that. It's another defense.
Right,
Like you said, TV and the iPhone, and yeah, but you're right. It's like layers upon layers,
right,
and we don't have to go through the circuitous routes to retrace back. We just there's one problem and one solution.
right, right.
So
And we
so
don't have to give it up.
Right. That's a good point,
you know.
because then we'll rebel against it if we have to give it up,
Right.
which
And
is
then it would really, I think the ego really loves it when we try to manipulate our behavior or the external world, or say, okay, if I don't do that, then I'm going to be better, you know,
Mhm.
because it doesn't want us to look at our belief in sin, which is what started this whole thing to begin with. So I think it's very happy if we're trying to say, okay, I go on a diet, or I go on a spiritual diet, or I don't, I'm only going to read in the course now, or, I'm not going to judge anymore, or something like that. It's very happy about that, because, it,
right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's taking you on another circuitous routes, but saying it hops on the spiritual journey with us,
right,
the spiritual journey, and it's happy to do that. It's happy to take control of that.
right,
Yeah, just like various defenses that the ego has defined as salvation. So,
right.
saved from love. That's a little crazy.
Nobody said we would be sane.
Nobody promised that, right?
No.
But in our secret forgotten agreement, we never promised to be sane.
Right, right.
But then we forgot that, and then we live in an insane world.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's actually a line that says, that is in chapter 8, section 5, paragraph 5. It's the undivided will of the sonship. It says in paragraph 5, sentence 5, whenever fear intrudes anywhere along the road to peace, it is because the ego has attempted to join the journey with us and cannot do so. Sensing defeat and angered by it, the ego regards itself as rejected and becomes retaliative. So
Yeah.
if we don't do what it says,
Hmm.
it becomes retaliative.
Yes, it becomes vicious
Yeah.
if you're in kindness mode and too long, then it becomes vicious.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to watch out for that. But on the other hand, when we do go through these fearful times, like the resistance from the course's message, at least for me, I know these patterns in myself. I come back with more, how would you say, consolidation of learning, I suppose. Something has shifted. I just feel, and that's probably exactly what I was reacting against,
Right.
that shift.
Right.
But boy, it can be painful what we put ourselves through.
Um, the next sentence is, you are invulnerable to its retaliation because I am with you.
Wow.
On this journey, you have chosen me as your companion instead of the ego. Do not attempt to hold on to both, or you will try to go in different directions and will lose the way.
Wow. Hmm. That's exactly what we do. We have that split mind, and one part wants the love that we long for, and the other is in terror for losing our individual self,
Right.
the one we see in the bathroom mirror.
Right.
We thought we could make perfect here, you
Yeah,
know,
I know. Beautiful mountain ranges, you know.
the island of Hawaii, butterflies, flowers. Yes, yes.
Right.
But we can see the beauty in them. Sometimes that beauty, like there's a poem that I'll have to find at some point, that talks about the beauty of a crushed flower. Oh, I wonder if I can find that. Give me a sec. Let me see if I can find that.
There's a line in the course that kind of represents that also.
Oh yeah, what can you remember?
I can read that. I can read that while you're searching.
Sure, that'd be great.
It's in chapter 17, section 2, the forgiven world, and it says, "All this beauty will rise to bless your sight as you look upon the world with forgiving eyes. For forgiveness literally transforms vision and lets you see the real world, reaching quietly and gently across chaos, removing all illusions that had twisted your perception and fixed it on the past. The smallest leaf becomes a thing of wonder, and a blade of grass a sign of God's perfection."
Yeah, and it just can really take your breath away when you do use their vision to look at things, even with our faulty eyes. It just can take your breath away, and you know it because it's just wow. There's just like a feeling that comes through. Have
Right.
you had that happen? Where
Yeah,
you
I
look
had that. I
at
had that
different.
happen, and there was one incident. I was sometime in my 20s, and I was going through the workbook, and the first 20 lessons, I think. And suddenly, I was sitting at my desk at the office, and suddenly, the items on my desk, there came waves of love came
Wow,
from those items towards me.
wow.
And first, I thought, "What the hell is going on?" And but it was kind of the hole puncher or stapler or whatever it was. Such love came from them, and that, I mean, that's just a reflection of the love that came through. But yeah, there was an example of that where it was the most mundane scene, a little computer screen and some papers and stuff, and then boom, it
That
happened.
that proves it's not what's out there. It's coming from within.
Right,
That's proof right
right,
there. That's a
right.
wonderful story. Wonderful short story.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
not the outside, but
And we need to hear those stories because this journey is a difficult one with the course. Well, even if you're not with the course, this world is, can be difficult. So, and we feel trapped in it, but there's a way out. There
right,
must be another way. And so
right,
those stories like yours I think, give people hope that there is another way. There is something else, something besides this, what we perceive, what we interpret.
right, right.
Yeah. I found the poem, and I'll just read just the first
Yeah.
paragraph because it's quite long. It's by Robert Nichol, and it's called God is Everywhere. And he says, "A trodden daisy from the sward, with tearful eye I took, and on its ruined glories I, with moving heart, did look. For crushed and broken though it was, that little flower was fair. And oh, I loved the dying bud, for God was there."
Hmm. Wow.
I always like that one.
Right. That's
It,
I think that's one of the big weapons of the ego, to say, there are certain things that are beautiful and others that are ugly. You know.
yeah, we look for perfection, but we don't realize that. And then we slowly do, but at first we don't realize that when we're looking for perfection, we're overlooking the love that's everywhere. That's
Right.
just everywhere. We're overlooking it completely.
Right. Because the denial, we're back in the denial. we have to deny love,
Mhm.
so we can't let the love that is there come in. And that love is, because it's in us, can be theoretically reflected in a prison cell. You could feel love, full love of heaven, in a prison cell, or in what Ken always said, um, in a camp, or in a war zone, or anywhere.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll use an example. My cat, one of my cats, has very frazzled hair. It almost looks like he stuck his little paw in a electrical socket.
Outlet.
That's his hair. It's like frazzled. It looks stunned, his hair. And his whiskers have these little bends to them, and they're not the beautiful, he's a Persian, but they're not the beautiful smooth Persians that you see
Right.
on
Right.
TV. But in those little fragile, those frazzled imperfections, I see more love in him.
Right.
It's
Right.
he's the opposite of perfect to the
Right.
ego's eyes.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. But someone else might say, "Oh gosh, I mean, he's really ratty looking. You need to shampoo him," or which
Right.
I
Right.
do, but he just turns out that way. It's like,
It's like one of those comics, in a comic book. You have this like,
yes, that's him all the time. And he has resting bee face.
oh, really?
Yes, like
I love it.
you look at him. He's just hanging out. He looks angry at you. Which is not. He
It's
looks
funny.
really pissed off all the time.
Right. Right.
So
When you were talking, when you were just before you read the poem, I was looking up the lesson 29 and lesson 30. Lesson 29 is God is in everything I see, and lesson 30 is God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. That's the reason why God is in everything I see. It's not because he's there or love is in the object. It's because love is in my mind. That's why it's so possible to see it, because it's in me, or in us.
that's right.
Um,
Oh, those two lessons go well with your story that you said about the
right, right,
objects in your office. Yeah.
right. And really, just thinking about it, and over the years, it was literally just a tiny opening. There was just a tiny opening in my mind, and that's what I saw, the reflection of the love that was within myself. Um, I had a bunch of those experiences very early on, some deeper than others, but in one sense, and that kind of brings us back to what we started, it didn't make the
You
journey
froze stuff, and I
easier.
don't know if you
It
can still
made
hear
it.
me. Oh, there you go. You're
Oh, sorry.
unfrozen.
It
No worries.
it, it didn't make the story easier. The journey easier. It almost made it more intensified, um, because there was, since that point, a contrast. There was a real contrast between those experiences and the ego thought system. It was very clear, and it didn't make it easier. It actually, for a long time, including still now, a good amount of times, it makes it worse in a way, because um, those dark parts become darker. They become definitely intensified, for me at least. And when Jesus says, um, you are afraid, and it is as if you were afraid of death. You know, you think you're gonna die, and I can I can touch on that. I can touch on that fear and say, I think I'm gonna die, and so it's just the contrast is just, and you can't go back. You know, I try to go back and say, no, I'm just gonna live a normal life. Forget it. Forget the whole thing. You know, bye Jesus. But once we open the mind, it's impossible to go back. You know, it is what it is now. I always see this. You know, you're in the roller coaster going up, and you're like, okay, this is it. I shouldn't have gone on it, but now I'm on it. I can't do anything other than just being on it. You
That's
know,
right.
this is it. You just
Yeah. Yeah. Once we know too much, we can't go
right.
back, because what we go back to is something that's static, and what our new knowledge has shown us is something that is much more fluid and real, rather than this static, like the old fashioned televisions late at night at 2 a.m. used to show static on the screen
Yeah.
before cable. I'm dating myself. uh, but we can't go back to the static.
Right.
That's what the world was to us
Mm-hmm.
before. We've seen, like, the Wizard of Oz turn from black and white into Technicolor, and we can't go back.
Right.
And,
Right.
it's like the
Once you
funnel.
swallow the blue
The
pill.
funnel, like you said, the funnel gets narrower. It starts large and it goes narrower. That is
Uh
such
oh.
a
I
great
think I'm losing
symbolism.
you a little bit.
Am I freezing?
Sorry,
Yeah, you.
Marisa. I think I'm losing you a little. I'm losing you a little bit. It might not have anything to do with the recording, but I didn't hear what you said.
Okay. Now, I was saying that the funnel analogy was so helpful, because it gets narrower and narrower as we are on this journey, which means we get closer to our destination, yet it also gets more intense. I really like
I
that you
agree. Yeah.
said that. That
Right.
is so helpful to
Right.
me that you said that, because it really makes sense. It's like a logical argument.
Right. Darn it.
And
I have this. I have a title. I have a title for this podcast. I was thinking about it for a while and didn't quite know how it would fit into this podcast. This right now, but I thought, all right, let's keep it in the back of my head. And the topic is, or the headline would be, "Staying the Course."
oh, I like that.
You know, you're in the boat and it's rocky and
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
shaky, and I see it in myself every day that I feel like I want to not give up in a way, not say, okay, I want to, you know, not be here anymore or anything like that, but or in this process anymore. But
I
it's
think I
more
lost you,
about
Stefan.
not pushing forward, you know, not
Yeah, you're still
taking
frozen.
Jesus's hand again. I just sometimes I want to say, you know what, this was the last time I've taken your hand. I'm not going to take your hand again. But it doesn't happen. It always comes back to taking his hand again. And there is, I think, a little story in Absence from Felicity, as if I remember correctly, where Jesus talks to Helen about he said something like, or he's in a boat and it gets stormy and rough, and he said, let me take the rudder for a while until we get to calmer waters. You know, so staying the course. I feel like that's really right on for me right now to just keep going. If you're, I think FDR or somebody said, if you go through hell, keep going. You know,
Yeah,
don't sit down.
Yes.
You
When you're
know,
in the shadowland, keep going. Yeah.
keep going. Yeah,
Because it is the fog, it obscures our vision.
right.
Yeah. There's a Ken did a workshop or an academy on something. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to, if I find it, tell you. But he uses the boat metaphor in the entire class.
Mm.
That a beautiful ocean liner we get on, and that's the ego's boat, of course,
Called Titanic.
right? And that Jesus pulls up to us on a little rowboat and says, "Please come, take my hand." And we're just not so sure about that.
Right,
And then the boat starts deteriorating and it sinks, but then we wake up again and it's a new boat again, and we forget all about the sinking and all about Jesus' hands in the little rowboat on the side.
right, right,
And we start over again. It's all brand new. Everything is
right,
shiny. The captain is handsome, and it starts over again, over and over and over again. And then he's
right,
down there saying, "Please, but you won't be able to hold all these people and animals." Yes, I can. In this small boat,
right,
yes, I can. Yeah. So
right.
I'll have to come back to you with the title.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's
That
really
would be great.
cool.
Yeah, that
Let
would
me
be good.
see if I can find it. But I
The,
probably have to go soon because my puppy is hollering.
oh yeah, no worries. So we have, yeah. Let's wrap it up. I have a little paragraph that we can read as final a final paragraph if you want.
That sounds good. And I wanted to
It's
also
chapter.
bring up that
Yeah.
in lesson 12, it kind of, when you were talking earlier about how the love coming through you and you seeing that in those just menial objects on your desk, the hole puncher, the stapler, and it just reminded me of lesson 12 where it says, if you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be.
Mm,
It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words are written the word of God. The truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see his. That just, I don't know, when you were talking about that love coming through
yeah,
and seeing it, it just reminded me that you kind of erased your words and you saw his.
that's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. I often return
I think
to,
that's a good. I think that's a good ending paragraph, Marisa. I don't think we need to read the other one. I think this is a good one.
okay, that sounds good. I didn't mean to take your paragraph
It's
space.
fine. I'm just going to be upset for a while. It's denial of truth. I know what it is, so don't worry about it. I'll get over it, you
I
know.
think you froze again, Stefan.
Oh, okay.
Stefan. Oh, there you are. There you are. You're back again.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
You
right.
froze
Sounds good.
for a minute, but you're back. All right. Sounds good. This was really fun. I
Yeah,
really
this was
enjoyed
good.
this.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you. We'll see you again next time.
See you next time.